Me!
Can we get a perfect downshift?
Get a choo-choo train?
Perfect downshift. Beautiful.
Hey everybody, it's Almost Anything Outdoors here. Come back at you with collaboration with Oddly Specific Films today. We're going to be doing a long-term 95,000 mile review of my 2018 Subaru WRX. So today we're going to go over why I bought this, what I like about the car, what I don't like about the car, who this car is really for, so if you're in the market for something like this, and I think that's pretty much it. Anything else, Chris?
No, I think you got it.
All right.
So what's the first thing you want to talk about?
So let's go over, some of the boring stuff. This is, like I said before, my 2018 Subaru WRX. This is the middle of the road premium trim. So the main, perks with this is that it has a cloth interior, which is what I preferred, with heated seats, which was one of the big boxes I wanted checked when I bought this car. I bought this brand new in May of 2018, and currently I think we're going on 7 years as of May, with 95,000 miles. Overall, this has served me very well. Only like one or two small reliability issues that I could chalk up to being my fault. Other than that, no blown engines. Subaru owners, you know what I'm talking about. No issues with drivetrain. Overall, this has been a great car. So why did I want this car? Well, first off, I wanted something that I could afford. Obviously, I would love something like, Corvette or something like that, but it's just wasn't in the budget at the time. Still isn't in the budget. And I was looking at a couple of different cars. I didn't want anything rear-wheel drive because sometimes Long Island can have some nasty winters. Since I've bought the car, the last 7 years, I haven't really had a winter where I really said, wow, I wish I had the all-wheel drive. So it is what it is.
It's because you bought it, John. You haven't needed to use it.
Exactly. So I wanted something either front wheel or rear wheel, or front wheel or all-wheel drive that was, sporty, fun, but at the same time practical. So other cars I was looking at the time were 2018 Ford Focus ST and also the 2018 Civic Si. This was before the Type R really came out, so that really wasn't on the table either. At the end of the day, I wound up choosing the Subaru for a couple of reasons. One, I felt it was a safer vehicle in case I had it while I was, I had kids or whatever. And then the other reason is that it had more power, and it also had, in my opinion, a superior drivetrain. So I felt like it was better value for my money. Now, you can make the argument for some people who are a little bit more astute with the Civic Si. You could argue, well, John, Civic Si is $5,000 less. You have Apple CarPlay, you have adaptive suspension, and you have the heated seats. You have arguably more better day-to-day features for a daily driver for less money. So why'd you choose it? One simple answer: horsepower.
Sorry, we're doing a pull.
205 horsepower front-wheel drive versus 268 horsepower all-wheel drive.
So now that's actually something I wanted to ask you about, John. I feel like in 2018, this was actually a genuinely sporty car. How do you feel like it's held up over time?
Well,
does it still meet that criteria?
After owning this car for a number of years, I will say it's sporty-ish. I would say it's a sporty daily driver. Is it a sports car? Debatable, in my opinion. You don't have it. To me, if I were to buy a sports car or a sporty car again, I would go with something rear-wheel drive, like a Mustang GT, Supra, M2, M3, and I'd get rear-wheel drive on those. I wouldn't get.
You think those cars are worth twice as much money?
Well, what does a GT go for nowadays, roughly speaking?
What, a 5.0?
Yeah, with a 5.0.
Yeah.
Mid-50s.
Yeah, I think base model is like mid-40s.
And this still goes, I think, for like 32 or something like that. You'll probably put it in the
Yeah, we'll
edit
throw
in.
it up. Why not?
For similar level trim with specs and that. You know, still mid-30s, and you're getting something decently sporty. It depends. If you're looking for a sports car, a sports coupe, then this doesn't check any of the boxes. You're talking 4 doors, all-wheel drive, and probably the lowest power out of all of them. So if you're looking for a sports car, no. If you're looking for something that's a daily driver that's going to put a bigger smile on your face than, a Kia, a Toyota, like something like a commuter car, oh, this is 100% a win for you. I have to say, it's been a great car. I'm still going to keep it around. It hasn't held me back from any of my outdoor adventures yet. I've definitely pushed its envelope, as I've told you before, Chris.
Bombardillo crocodile.
Chad, oh my goodness.
Oh, he's hauling.
So some of my favorite things is the color. I had a coworker in the past who had same generation STI, and I fell in love with the color. As soon as he bought that car and he pulled in, I saw it, I was just like, wow, I gotta have this. This was cool. So, long story short, yeah, here we are now, 7 years later. I really like the wheels on this version. I know they're really curb rashed and,
Oh, just got this close up.
I know they're really curb rashed, but I do like the design. Enki makes these for Subaru.
I agree. The styling, I think, complements the car very nicely.
I've never had a desire to get new wheels for the sake of the looks. So, I really like that. I really like the interior. Like, come over here for a second, Chris. One of the things I liked, I know I have to vacuum out the car, but I really like cloth interior. I'm not personally a big fan of leather interior, especially just in my preferences. I've always, like when I was younger, I didn't like it. Now I have more of an appreciation for it, but this has cloth, but it's heated. Let's keep this in order of likes versus dislikes. So, trunk, I'd say, is about average for a sedan.
I got an idea for
I got stuff in the back, and shout out to Oddly Specific POV merch. Totally not planned. I was able to fit any of my camping, hiking, hunting gear in the back of this trunk, or in the back seats. Obviously, I like the sportiness. The suspension is tight compared to normal commuter cars. I feel like I could take corners really well. I was just doing some clover leafs yesterday, so that's basically going around the exit ramps and pushing the cars to its limit. And I was able to go pretty fast. I think I was almost at 50. I probably shouldn't be admitting that on camera.
No speed limits. We drive the speed limit here at Pacific Films.
Yes, I totally drove the speed limit, and this was planted.
Which happened to be 50 miles an hour, the speed limit.
Yes, exactly,
yes,
right.
New York State limit is 55.
Yeah, exactly. So I was able to hug the corner perfectly, and I was exiting the corner, and I was just, I got back up to that extra 5 miles an hour to the speed limit.
Glad to hear it.
So, overall in terms of performance, I think I can't complain. Would I like more power? Yes. But that means I have to spend more money. And for right now, with 95,000 miles on it, I don't plan on adding any mods really. I've kept this car pretty much stock for the entirety I've owned it. So, another thing I mentioned before about this car that I liked is, I do like the aesthetic comparatively to the newer WRXs. Personally, not a big fan. I kind of like how this looks. I think this has aged very well 7 years later comparatively to like the trend of newer cars now. I'd say the last big thing that I really like about it is the safety, really. I had been rear-ended in this car. This car has, a couple of little small fender benders on it just from commuting on Long Island. People act like idiots on the road. I was driving up Route 109, about to get onto the Southern State Parkway. I'm at a stop, and a big Ford Escape rear ends me. Bam! And the back was crumpled in a bit. I'll send you a picture, Chris. You can stitch it in whenever you want. And I was not hurt at all. So, granted, yeah, it was a slow rear end collision, but still, I think it was fine. I was perfectly okay. And I've seen photos and videos of, you know, people get into really nasty accidents in this car, but the way Subaru engineered it and designed this car, I think it's very safe comparatively to other alternatives on the market. I guess that's pretty much it on everything I like about it. Things I don't like, I'll start off with things I don't like that can be fixed easily. If you want to come over here, Chris, I want to just show you something here. So, from the factory, Subaru thought it was a beautiful idea to put their World Rally experimental car with summer tires, summer performance tires from Pirelli. I don't know if it was a financial decision or whatever, but it was a horrible idea. In my opinion, Subaru should have put what I put on this car, Pilot Sport All-Season Force, the perfect choice for this car. And I'll get into that a little bit more under the who I think this car is for section. The other one that I couldn't stand when I bought the car was the armrest. I'm going to come around the other side. The armrest was pretty comfortable, I will say. However, it was way too low. How you see it now is how it comes from the factory. And I know this is a little difficult to see here, but you know, your arm is so low to begin with. When you're trying to shift, you have to move up, shift into gear, and then you're moving it back. It's way too low, and it needs to be farther, a slight bit farther forward. So I wound up buying aftermarket a retractable armrest where it goes up here, and then you can move it down.
That's pretty nifty.
If you don't want it, I'll say 90% of the time it's just been up like this.
Yeah.
Maybe twice I've ever had to move it down. But here I can move it in, bam, etc. And comparatively, this one is very hard, plastic, and there's like no padding comparatively. So it's not very comfortable in that regard. What else do I dislike? I felt like they could have put a little bit more power. I think to keep up with the market, especially in the price bracket, because I think, if I recall correctly, the Focus ST was maybe like 10 or 20 horsepower short. And even with this, with the all-wheel drive, you're getting less power at the end of the day. So I feel like maybe like, you know, another 20 or 30 horsepower would have made this a little bit more competitive with other cars, you know, in the segment. You know, maybe like an EcoBoost Mustang or something along those lines. Big thing I don't really care for this, that, you know, is quality of life. We're going to go back in, Chris. You may want to come around the other side. So, I think the last thing, and this is where, honestly, I will say the Honda Civic Si takes the cake here as a day-to-day daily, is that for a 2018, this has, I don't know, some sort of, you know, touchscreen system, and it has this small little display up here. Comparatively, I believe the Civic Si, the Civic Si, and I'm not 100% sure about the Focus ST, but I believe both of them had the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. Yeah. And for being a 2018, that should have been in this car. Now, granted, that is one of my gripes with Subaru as a whole, is that they're always behind on interior design and features comparatively to the competition. However, I've dealt with it. I've looked into replacing this head unit with an Apple CarPlay one, and it's like $400 or $500, not including labor. And to me, $20 on Amazon, this gets me 90% of the way there.
And I'll add to that, John, just to add another testament to the video here. My 2017 Ford Fiesta ST had that, and that's a car that was like 20% cheaper than this.
Yeah.
And would have been a competitor in the more budget-friendly segment.
Exactly. And
it still had it.
So Subaru was really lagging behind this. I will say this, to Subaru's credit, this is actually a nice feature where I usually leave it on this for day-to-day driving, where it gives me my average MPG, which, you know, combined is all right. It's about like 25 to 27, 28. And then mostly highway, you're getting around 30, I would say. So it's all right. It's not bad. It's still commuter car average for the time. You know, you have this for traction control and how your wheel is angled and all that stuff and the angles that you're on. You know, how much PSI you're making and trip computer information. And then here's your digital boost gauge, which is, I think it's pretty cool personally, but, you know, and then this is for the settings and stuff like that, and then a clock. So, but that doesn't make up for the lack of Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. I think if they added a little bit more power, put the right tires on it from the get-go, and Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, this car would have been a 10 out of 10. And it's not like I'm talking about small things. I think each of them individually would be, okay, I can get over it. But the three of them combined, it makes it like, all right, really? What was Subaru thinking at the time? So those are my things I dislike about the car. So, who do I think this car is for? I think this is for somebody who needs a sedan that wants something, not the run-of-the-mill Honda Civic, that has a little sportiness to it, a little bit of fun, and somebody who's looking for an all-wheel drive car that isn't going to break the bank, like, you know, something like an Audi A4 or something like that. I think this is a really great option for those people. In terms of, you know, maintenance, it's not bad. The only issue I had was a couple of check engine lights and misfires because I didn't do the spark plugs on time. I did it about 10,000 miles too late. Once I replaced the spark plugs, car was running perfect again after like 50 miles or something like that of driving. The computer reset itself. Now, would I buy this car again? If I was in my same position, I'm going to be honest with you. No, I wouldn't. And here's the reason. Because I've already had this for 7 years. I kind of want something different. Now, what is my next car going to be? I'm not quite sure. I'm looking for a pickup truck. Or maybe a larger SUV like a Subaru Outback. Not quite sure yet. But if I was looking for a sportier car, my answer would probably be like a Ford Mustang, BMW M Series, like an M2 or M3 or an M340i. Or I was even looking at the BMW X3 M40i. Yeah, so that's who I think this car is for. Is it worth it if you are in an area with a lot of snow? Debatable. If you live upstate New York, New England, in, you know, colder climates where you get a lot more snow, totally worth it. Don't even hesitate, just go out and buy one.
All right, so I just figured I would add something to this, right? Because obviously I've daily driven 400 plus horsepower muscle cars for 3 years in New York. And so the perspective of a Mustang making more sense, or a Challenger Scat Pack, or a Camaro, or anything like that, I don't want to discredit and take for granted that we do live in a pretty mild climate. Something like this, I think it does have its place in there's millions, probably dozens of millions of people who live north from us. So for stuff like that, and there's also places where they're a lot stricter about speeding. Realistically, New York, the speed limit here is like 80 on the highway before you even have a chance of getting pulled over. I know other places they're a lot more strict about it. So something like this might have more utility there. You know, if you lived in Vermont, upstate New York, Maine, something like this probably has enough power for those winding mountain roads.
done that before too.
Driving through 2 feet of snow. So I just wanted to add that to the video. I think there is a point for cars like this. Personally, in New York, though, I would probably buy a Mustang over a WRX. But if I lived somewhere else, I think a WRX, a Golf R. What other stuff do they have in that segment?
S4.
An S4. I mean, that's probably like twice as much money, but
Or an A4.
yeah. I mean, as somebody who had an Audi A4 for a couple years too, that was a lot of fun to drive in the winter. But same thing. I think there is a purpose for it. But you can skate by at least where we live without having something like it. So,
Yeah.
How many booms do you give the WRX?
I'll give it a solid 4 booms. Boom! 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 And boom! Yeah, 4 booms.